Welcome, Waylon Lewis, to the podcast. I'm so truly excited to have you here. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. For those of our beautiful listeners who aren't familiar with you yet, I'm sure they are familiar with Elephant Journal, which is one of the leaders in the mindful space. And we are so excited to learn from you around how you created this powerhouse community known as Elephant Journal. So I would love to learn a little bit more about you, and maybe you can catch us up on where this idea began and how you created such a movement in the online space.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me. It's delightful. I do a lot of interviews and videos, podcasts, so it's very, very fun to get to spend time with someone else who does this. I grew up in Boulder, where I live now. I was raised by a single mom, and she is a teacher and a writer and directed Shakespeare plays, all that. So I grew up with a love for the arts, a love for writing. And we grew up in the Buddhist community here. And basically the foundation of Buddhism on a very simple level is to be of benefit. So I kind of grew up with this lovely worldview that I'm incredibly grateful for, where you wake up in the morning with your thoughts and your to-do lists and your fears and your hopes, but you come back immediately to like, how can I be of benefit? And may anything I do be of benefit? So I think, that was my approach to my career, honestly. It was like, what mark in a positive way, in a gentle way, can I leave on this planet? And hopefully all of us, they talk about this in Dead Poets Society, like what can our contribution be to the epic poem that is history? So, and that sounds grandiose, but it's just a very simple thing that's in a way very selfish. You get to wake up and feel joyful and not be self-obsessed, which we all are on some level. And then my father and his father before him, they were all sort of in journalism. So I think between Buddhism and journalism, and when I lived in Vermont during high school, I became an environmentalist. I think those things just mixed together. And then also I grew up very, very poor with my mom, and I really wanted to like make money and start a business. And I didn't view money as a bad thing. I saw us lose our house because she couldn't pay the mortgage. And I saw her crying at Christmas because she couldn't get presents. And we would eat popcorn for like weeks straight, or rice, because she didn't have money. And I saw the stress of that. So I didn't really think money would cure all ills, but I did value just being able to have a home and some furniture and some like good, wholesome food and community. And my mom provided all of that, really. And so that was sort of, I think you mix that together, you get elephant, basically.
That's incredible. So can you take us through the moment when Elephant came into creation? Did you create a blog and then it, kind of spiraled into all of these things? Were you sharing, your writings? Like, how did that really start?
Yeah, it's funny. So Elephant started in 2002, which, I don't know how old you are, but like most of my staff were like 6 years old or something. I definitely feel old these days. And I used to be like a young entrepreneur historically. And, just in those 17 years, we've gone through revolutions in media, which is a attractive sounding term for, the degradation of media and the rise of social media. So many newspapers have gone out of business. 57% of all journalists have lost their jobs. The rise of fake news on social media has started. If you can't rock Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, you can't really exist in media in this world. And we have to train a whole new generation, which we really have over the last few years, to even value paying for media. I think in a funny way, paying for Netflix or whatever has helped with that. So it's been a crazy time. So I didn't really think of starting Elephant, quite honestly. I thought I would write some books and become famous, like a famous novel writer. It's much more romantic and maybe easier, maybe harder. And so I was going to Naropa University, and I was going to leave to grad school in the Northwest. And right before I did so, I was a trained journalist from Boston University, where I studied. And I talked with my next door neighbor, who is a journalist. And she said, oh, if if you're trying to write, you should go talk with this guy, Travis, who's trying to start a yoga publication called Yoga in the Rockies. And so I went and met with him, and he like grabbed me by the lapel or whatever and said, please work with me, be my editor. And I said, no way. I had just been working for Buddhist stuff for years, making like awful money, being super broke and loving what I did every day and learning a ton. And I was like, I've just been broke doing stuff I love for many years. I can't do more of that. I need to do something practical that I could raise a family, you know, on. And ironically, I've yet to do that part. But but I said, but I would be your partner. So we decided to be partners, and then he quit quite quickly. I always say he was much smarter than me. He realized that media would be like many years of struggle and being broke. And I think, you know, that's a huge part of entrepreneurship, is being willing to, you know, we talk about right livelihood, which is the Buddhist term for doing what you love, doing what's of benefit, doing what pays the bills, and doing what you're good at. It has to be all four for it to be fully fulfilling. It can't just be like something you're good at, but it's bad for the world. Like if you're good at shooting people, that may not be good for the world, right? So you want to find something that's good for the world, that you're good at, that you love doing, that can pay the bills. And paying the bills is actually a virtue from the Buddhist notion of right livelihood. So I became partners, he left, and then we were all yoga focused. And I basically was like, I don't even think yoga people are yoga focused. Like yoga people care about their family, care about their food. Hopefully they care about eco fashion. They care about politics a little bit. They care, whatever. They're human beings, and they care about yoga. So I broadened the focus. I renamed it Elephant, and we went national.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So we grew gradually as a magazine, and then eventually jumped online. WordPress was brand new. I mean, a real revolution has happened. Like you can publish a blog. The stuff we take for granted in 2019, like literally in the Harry Potter books, which were published around 2000 or whatever, is considered magic to have a newspaper with moving faces. That's literally what a video is in your Instagram. You open up Instagram, you see a video of like someone in Bali. It's magic. You can publish a blog and someone could read it in Mongolia instantly, except not Mongolia because the Chinese wouldn't allow it, but you know, instantly. It's like really amazing. But as one of my idols, a great journalist, Edward R. Murrow, said, just because the word can travel around the world before you know it, doesn't mean there's more truth to it. So we have to find a way to come back to truth, which can also be translated as dharma. You know, it's holy work. Hopefully we're doing as entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think something that continued to come up when you were speaking for me was, how can we walk this line of staying in integrity? You know, especially like in the online space, and social media really is a huge component of my business, right? And I'm so grateful for that. And I've always really promised myself that I would stay in integrity, what that means to me personally. And so I'd love to hear from your side, because I know people say, you know, well, can you be rich and spiritual? Can you be successful and integrous? Can you be these two different like dichotomies? And in especially like coaching and entrepreneurship on social, right? We have a lot of claims and a lot of people saying a lot of things that they might not be able to back up, or a lot of 21-year-olds trying to teach you business and asking you for $75,000. So all of these things, right? It's like, well, what is really the integrity? And as a buyer, as a potential client, right? How can you really navigate that? Or as a reader or a viewer?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, you know, part of the job of journalism, which isn't exactly what you're asking, but in a way it's the answer, is to train readers or consumers or clients to ask critical questions. So, you know, before sharing a blog or a title or an Instagram story or whatever, a YouTube video that you totally agree with, you should say, what is the source on this? Even if I agree on it, is it coming from a real source? Is this a fact? Or am I just spreading, like Bolsonaro, the new president of Brazil, got elected partially on the strength of rumors on WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook. And these rumors helped launch this guy who had promised to destroy the Amazon to help the corporations just exploit the Amazon at the expense of the indigenous people. He said he would do that. And journalism reported on that for a year before he actually was able to do it. And when he started, you know, all those fires in the Amazon that went viral on Instagram, so many of the comments or the stories said, the media is not reporting on this. And as a journalist, I looked at that and I said, F you, you know, like literally, if you're getting your news from viral stuff on Instagram, you're dependent on something going viral. And the story of one person doing something beautiful or one person doing something awful, if that goes viral, that's your story for the day. But that's not reality. The media has been reporting on the Amazon for years, and certainly for a year on Bolsonaro. So it's all on us to reinvest ourselves in truth. And the cool thing that happens if we subscribe to the New York Times or Washington Post or whatever is we start being willing to be wrong too, which is powerful in our relationships as well. You know, we start being loyal to the truth, not to our preconceived opinion. And then as consumers or clients, we start being able to discern. I look at Jenay and I say, you're saying whatever, I can do some course of yours. I say, okay, what's your track record? What's your kind of vibe, which we all are pretty good at? You know, just a very simple human listening of who you are. And we start just being able to sort of judge instead of prejudge. And I think judging has a bad name these days. I would say like, judging is a beautiful thing. Judging is discernment. Prejudging, prejudice is the problem. If I give you a handful of dog poop or an apple, you're going to judge that you should eat the apple. That is okay. You're going to judge that you want to walk on the crosswalk when the walk signal, you know, judging is okay. You don't want to prejudge. That's where we end up being fearful of other and hating immigrants and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if I answered anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many like little nuggets of wisdom that are just beautiful for life that we can implement as well. And I think so much of business is life. I always say that like your business is a reflection or a mirror of you. And if your business is really messy, where is that happening internally or in your life? So I'd love to hear your perspective on how you keep that mindful, I hate the word balance. I like the word harmony, but that harmony between, because for me, I'm the Chinese sign of a horse. I'm the year of the horse, and I'm an Aries. So I'm a ram. I'm literally the definition of a workhorse. I can like kill my chakras and like just totally blow out everything just to get things done.
Right.
And I think there's this like hustle mentality too in the social media, the online entrepreneurial space. And so for you, how have you been able to create harmony, like knowing that this is enough, what I'm doing is enough, and I can take this space for myself?
Yeah, I mean, in my 20s and early 30s, I definitely had a kind of arrogance that was beautiful in the sense that like any job that came up, workhorse mentality, I would like, I can do it. I would just try to do everything. So I say that's beautiful because we all have that sort of youthful arrogance, I think at times where we're like, I can do it. I'll try biting off more than I can chew. And I don't want to just insult that because there's a kind of fearlessness or ambition to youth that is lost as we get older. But there's also a level of like, people would say, Waylon, you need to sleep, you need to exercise, you need to eat food. And I'd be like, ain't nobody got time for that. You know, what are you talking about? I literally had a major attitude about it. I was like, how dare you come into my space? Do you know how busy I am? Like if I had time to go eat real food or exercise or sleep, I would. And there was some level of reality to that where like I was often working alone. And if I wasn't on at 3 a.m. building up, you know, sharing an article, we just died as a business. But now, you know, in my old age, 45, I have amazing staff who are all super motivated and mission driven and intelligent and thoughtful. And, you know, I don't have to do it all. And the way to get there is to, as Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the author of Le Petit Prince, The Little Prince, says, if you want to inspire people to become sailors or sail the seas, you don't teach them how to tie knots and all this. You teach them to love the sea, and they'll figure the rest out. So you kind of, as an entrepreneur, a huge part of your job is to just be in love with what you're doing and to inspire others to help you if you want help. Most of us as entrepreneurs want help or need help. And then we have to become managers, and often we suck at that because, like, I'm a great leader in the sense of like vision and going forward and all that. And I'm an awful leader in the sense of, you know, if someone's having a hard day and I have to like stop working and spend 15 minutes, how are you? How are things going? You know, that's really hard for me because I'm so speedy. So that's where life and work intersect, is that, like Pema Chodron says, you know, whatever you're bad at will keep coming back to your life. So I'm bad at slowing down and being present. And how ironic is that? Because I have a publication devoted to the mindful life. But what I say is, literally, the mindful life isn't for Buddhas who are already on top of the mountain. It's for all of us in the mud, right? All of us who lose our minds, who, you know, mindfulness and meditation practice, what I grew up studying and practicing in Buddhism, isn't about being perfect. It's about noticing when you're asleep and being willing to come back. So for me, my practice, my Buddhist practice now, is to slow down and be available for my staff sometimes.
Beautiful. I'd love twofold question. The first piece is, I'd love to hear about the process and how you feel about content creation now that it is so focused on like the social space or, you know, just anything online. And then the other component is, has there ever been a moment in your business where you questioned like if it was all going to work, if it was going to happen? Right now, I think Elephant Journal is worth $10 million, somewhere in the like high million range. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of pressure to have on one person. So I would love kind of both of those components. So why don't we talk about, have you ever felt this moment in your business, or have you ever like questioned how to keep going, or wondered like if it was going to be worth it?
Yeah, I think I always say like, no, I've never wanted to quit. And then Lindsay Block, who's been with me since she was an intern, she's now pregnant and married, and she says, oh no, you've wanted to quit like once a year. And conveniently I forget that. And I think, yeah, it's, you know, we're a little bit different than a lot of startups in that we don't want to sell. I don't want to sell Elephant. I want to create value and I want to make good money, but I don't want to sell to the man. I don't feel like anytime you sell something, it's sort of like saying goodbye to a brand. It's like, it's never going to be as good. Once in a while, maybe, but rarely. And Elephant's actually mission driven in the sense that like climate change is a reality. Sexism is a reality. Racism is a reality. Plastic waste is a reality. Like, we want to actually try to get the word out about good things and get the word out about bad things and make it all hopefully a little more aware, a little more kind, and have a little more truth in the mix. So that's a mission that kind of isn't helped by selling out to the man, like Condé Nast, or the man now is more like Facebook or something.
Yeah.
So in terms of content creation, like we're just, we have thousands of writers who write. Anyone can write on Elephant at any time. We're kind of trying to open that up more and more so that it's almost like a Facebook status or Instagram post, like that you or anyone can just post instantly. And you can on Elephant, and that it's easy. And then our editors will come in, kind of like on Reddit, if you're familiar with it, see the top stuff and offer their editing services, and then promote it to our 10 million Facebook fans and, you know, our Instagram audience, whatever. But so we're basically trying to become social media at this point, because social media is killing all journalism and media. There's like an extinction phase for media. So if you can't beat them, you got to kind of join them. The difference with us becoming social media is that we would be mission driven, not looking at quarterly returns. So that means we would care more about truth than collecting data in that very simple sense. Whereas Zuckerberg is sort of saying, we're happy to have lies on Facebook, you know, I get that he has some real problems. It's hard running Facebook, but if they really made tough decisions, they could handle a lot of the fake news. Anyway, so yeah, in terms of the value of Elephant or feeling like quitting, like it's so hard. I mean, we try to pay people well and have benefits and be a great staff to work with. And, we're both like giving raises to people right now and worrying about being able to pay the bills, because like Facebook has driven as I said, a lot of media out of business to make that clear that that's not just whining or some vague thing. Our readership was at 23 million readers a month 5 years ago. And today it's at 3 million readers a month. That's still big enough to support a big staff. And it's, you can get outside of the choir and everything's hunky dory, but it's like 23 million to 3 million. That's intense. So for us to then become a social media platform like Reddit that doesn't really care about whether Facebook is up or down or the algorithm is doing this or that. And remember, Facebook owns Instagram and WhatsApp, sort of the evil empire on some level. I don't think they're evil, but I don't think they're really helping, to put it politely. So yeah, I mean, if I wanted to quit, I would say, yeah, media is too hard right now. I'm going to go open like a craft store and do something I believe in and be involved in community. And that would be beautiful. I think it's okay to quit if you want to, but no, I want to like take on social media directly and turn it hopefully into an engine for good and kind of try to save the world. I mean, shouldn't we all try to save the world every day and every action, and also on a bigger level, just to be of service?
Yeah, absolutely. So your mission it allows you to continue going even when it feels really hard and scary.
Well said.
I mean, it's something that I think new entrepreneurs need to hear, because regardless of if you get this fancy coach or you want to do it on your own, or you want to, test the waters to try and take over social media, there are going to be moments where it's really fucking hard, right? And there's going to be
the fact that you love, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, just the fact that you wake up, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have some annoying boss, right?
Yeah.
You only have the annoying boss who is you. And your bills and that kind of thing. And so you wake up and ideally you're an entrepreneur picking something you're good at, that you love, that can eventually, if not at first, pay the bills, and that can be a benefit eventually. So you wake up like kind of excited to be alive. You wake up, I remember being an employee, I never felt like a very good employee. I felt like I learned a lot, I had some good mentors, I worked hard, but I wasn't my intelligence, my basic goodness wasn't really there. And as an entrepreneur, it's the opposite. You're just like fully open to the energy of the universe on some level. And, so your job becomes self-care, not in the Pinteresty, Instagrammy way, but in the sense of like, you got to take care of yourself. You got to sleep 7 hours or you're dumb. Like there's studies, like you want to be dumb, don't sleep. That's what finally convinced me to sleep more. I was like, okay, it's making me bad at my job. That's as the entrepreneur mindset. I was like, I don't care about sleep if it's going to make me look old before my time, make me cranky. I don't care about any of that. But when they said it makes you worse at making decisions and dumber, I was like, okay, I'm going to sleep. And then you got to meditate for a few minutes, come back to the present moment, dedicate yourself to the benefit of, make sure your vision is actually in line with, as you said, in harmony with our world. And then work your butt off. On some level, if you're doing what you love, your job is to pull yourself back from exhausting yourself all the time.
Yeah, so that like hustle mentality, how would you describe that we can support? I mean, obviously meditation and sleep. Are there any other practices that have been really instrumental in your life, in your entrepreneurial journey, in healing and growing Elephant?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of things. I think for many years, again, with that arrogance of youth, I never read any business books. I was like, I got mentors. I got a huge network, a huge community. I have the most amazing community who helps me all the time. I was like, I don't need these stupid business books. And then I think when I had enough staff, I started being a manager, not just a leader or an entrepreneur. and I sucked at being a manager. I was so bad. So I finally humbled me enough to like go read some of these books. And I went to the basement of the Boulder bookstore where the business section is. And I found like the Starbucks book and the Cliff Bar book and some book called Small Giants and some other thing and this and that. And I read all these books, and it was like finally drinking water after crawling through a desert. It was like, oh my God, other people have gone through everything I could ever go through, and they have learned the hard way, and they are offering me the opportunity for the price of often a used book to learn the easy way. I was like, hallelujah. And by far the best book I've ever read is Small Giants. I recommend it to every entrepreneur. If you want to do something kind of ethical, Small Giants is unbelievable. It's about businesses that want to grow and be successful, but don't necessarily want to be the next Amazon. They don't want to take over the whole world, but they want to be of service and do something excellent. And that's called Small Giants. And then, I think the basics is sort of boring, right? But a lot of boring stuff is boring because it's ordinary, because it's real. Is eating real food and not multitasking while you do it. Yeah. That's a really hard one. But if you practice mindful eating, which in my old age, I'm like starting to do a little bit. I went to Kripalu last year, the yoga center in Massachusetts, and they don't allow cell phones or laptops in the cafeteria. So I'm like sitting there, like fully out of train spotting, going through withdrawal symptoms. Like, how on earth do you eat food without a newspaper or a book or a phone or a friend to talk with? You can't talk, or a TV or anything. Like, all you can do is eat food. It's so boring. And you just sit there and you eat food. And then after a minute or two, you realize it's not boring. You realize that food is really good and delicious. And if you look at it, that adds to the pleasure instead of just like looking up at the TV or whatever. I know this is all basic to you, but like for a speedy entrepreneur idiot, it was like revelatory. And just to realize that being present for my food is a meditation, in the sense that you come out of it feeling refreshed mentally, not just physically. Exercising. If you don't exercise every day, whatever exercise you want, ideally it's an exercise in nature, because nature also refreshes your brain and your soul. So swimming or biking or walking your dog or jogging or, basketball, you guys know exercises, but whatever it is, like mix it up and make it something fun, not just like whatever it is that isn't fun to you, probably like find something else. I love bouldering, for example, whatever is fun, hiking. And then sleep is a big one. Meditating before and after, like right before you go to bed, and right before when you wake up, and right before you run around with all your crazy to-do lists. I got to shower, I got to do this. You meditate for a few minutes and dedicate yourself. Just taking that moment is everything. I wrote a blog on Elephant titled, when I don't meditate in the morning. It was about that notion of like slowing down to take a few minutes to meditate and dedicate yourself, your mission, actually makes me better at everything I do during the day. And, drama is the bane of business. If you want to go out of business, you can measure your lack of success by how much drama you have in your life. Drama takes so much emotional energy, and it's all misdirected. Like, none of it's helpful. Like in the Obama campaign in 2007, 2008, they called it No Drama Obama. They hired people who were known for being boring and kind of no drama. Whereas in most political campaigns, they're all crazy. They're wired, they're up all night, they're eating bad pizza. There's like a romance in entrepreneurship that we have to end, which is this sort of like workaholic thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And so the women listening are, and men maybe, the community that's listening here is, I feel like, really we're the precipice of that like workaholic thing too in entrepreneurship. And so to combat that, I think a lot of it is that like, real true self-care. But when you have this desire, right, to do something incredible, it's like this weird this weird shift of like, okay, well, I want to show up and I want to go deep, right? But, oh, okay, well, but everyone's saying like, you don't have to be a slave. You don't have to be a workhorse. You don't have to do like any of these things and you can still be successful. But it seems like your point of view, and correct me if I'm wrong, is really like, use it while you can and do that. And then, you know, when you get to this like space of wanting to slow down, honor that. And it's really just about like honoring those phases of entrepreneurship and life. Is that?
Yeah, I think you said it well. I don't totally know what my point of view there would be, but I think in a way that's sort of my answer is you have to be open and not have some ideology, because life will crush you. If you're being a workaholic and it's bad for you, you will get sick. Like life will slow you down. It'll say, slow down, watch all of Seinfeld on your laptop for a few days, or read Little Women for the third time or whatever. And I'm talking about myself there, by the way. I'm a huge Little Women fan. Yeah, if you're like in Buddhism, they talk about, what is it? Like obstacles, dharmapala. There's a level of life will kind of wake you up in an unpleasant way if you're just operating based on your prejudgment, your speediness. So it's really just remaining open. If you have the energy to do this event that nobody thinks you should be able to do, trust yourself, question yourself, but then say, if the answer is, yeah, I think I can do this, and I think it would be good for my business, and I think it would be good for the world, go for it. And I definitely did that. I'm not anti-workaholic at all. I'm just anti the romance of being a workaholic.
Like it's such a good thing.
Yeah, I'm wearing a stained t-shirt and I'm like 40 pounds, you know, heavier than I want to be, not because you should embrace whatever you want, but if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're just eating day old pizza, if you're not getting outside, if you're not sleeping, you know, that's not helping your business. Right. That said, you know, sacrifice, like anyone who's a parent knows this, sacrifice and being a workaholic is fundamental to accomplishing anything great. So it kind of goes both ways. I just think we need to let go of the romance of it. Like the romance doesn't help because it encourages you to ignore your own body and ignore your own energy.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I want to switch gears a little bit because you have built such an incredible community, and a lot I know of what people are teaching in the space is if you want to be successful, you need to be successful at community building. So are there any like real truth bombs that you want to share around how to actually create a movement? Because that's what you did with Elephant. I mean, 23 or 3 million readers a month aside, that's a movement of people. That is like a whole race in and of itself that is supporting this venture. So for those who are just starting out or who may be kind of like figuring out what their, you know, niche is or who they want to serve, how can you build that community?
Yeah, great questions. I mean, the first thing we did is we got big on Twitter, and that was just like we won #1 in the country twice for environmental coverage on Twitter. And we just did that by being kind of this, you know, everyone has their brand, but for us, it was sort of genuinely caring, which is a kind of unbrand. Like you just genuinely care, and whatever you genuinely care about, you share that. So it could be anything. It could be about composting, or it could be about the Ukraine, you know. And then having a sense of humor that was occasional, like not taking yourself too seriously all the time. And then being fully serious and really caring about boring things like, you know, the impeachment process may be boring to look at, but what's happening there beyond partisanship, beyond hating Trump or loving Trump, what's happening here? What's true? What's at stake? Why does it matter? So being willing to sort of digest that for our audience. So that was one thing. Then we built 10 million fans on Facebook. MSNBC by comparison has like maybe 2.5 million fans. We have 70 pages, 10 million fans. That's with zero budget. Like that was all organic growth, unlike many of the big media. And we did that again by just kind of daring to care. And it's really hard to care out there in social media because it's so extreme. Like Twitter is either tearing people apart, you know, some people should be torn apart, but Twitter is kind of vicious. It's this soapbox. Or Facebook can be that way, or Instagram even can be that way. It's very black or white. Social media is really heightening the extremes. And if you just care about the issue and you're trying to figure out the truth, and you on some level want to bring everyone together around equality or around not being sexist or around not wanting nuclear war or around fracking maybe isn't good or around showing up to vote, however you're going to vote. Let's all, so really daring to kind of genuinely care is how we did it, and just show, and that's the mission level. And then I think showing up, consistency. If you have the best friend in the world, you know, think of your best friend, whoever it is, whoever's listening. If you only show up for them like when it's convenient for you, once every third month or once a year, they're not going to be a best friend for long, right? We've all lost best friends, not because we got in an argument, but because they stopped showing up or because you stopped showing up. So if you want to build a community, just like a real community in the world, you have to show up. If I go to farmer's market, everybody there waves at me and talks to me and knows me because I show up. I'm actually doing my grocery shopping there, you know? I'm not just walking along with my hipster hat and my, you know, little tote bag. I'm actually like getting my week's groceries and supporting people. So you got to show up. And consistency is hard. I mean, Friday night, like I've been doing this 17 years, but Friday night, instead of going out and being fun or cool, or instead of staying in and like, you know, doing my nails in the bubble bath, I worked on social media after a long week from 8 p.m. to nearly midnight. And I did that because no one else was available for that shift. And I wanted to connect with our readers instead of just dropping the ball. So there's some level of like, if you care, you will be consistent. So it's kind of easy. You really have to just come back to like, pick something you care about. If you're doing a startup and it's like home delivery of dog toys, you better really care about dogs and about toys and, you know, delivery. You better be obsessed with the details of that. Because if you're not going to show up when the going gets tough. And my advice when people are like, I want to start a media thing, people ask me all the time, I'm like, number one, don't. Like, just do not do it. And if they're like, go to hell, I'm going to do it no matter what, tell me how. I'm like, okay, now I'll talk to you. Because if you're easily dissuaded, you're going to quit. And it's a good experience to start something and quit, but it's so much money and effort. And, you know, at least in my case, I was like, started it being totally broke. And I didn't have the room to lose a lot of money, you know. So start something that you will see through all the way because you love it.
That's such great advice. And I have one additional question for you, which kind of manifested itself when I began the podcast. What is the message that you feel you're here to share with the world?
You mean like fundamental overall message?
Yeah.
I think that,
like I can't narrow it down.
Yeah. I think basically it's that, you know, when you wake up in the morning in your bed or wherever you're sleeping, if it's not your bed, you sit up, meditate, come back to the present moment and dedicate yourself to the benefit of all sentient beings. Because if you do that, you flip ego on its head. You, instead of trying to be happy because you're self-obsessed, you're trying to be happy because you are empathetic toward other people. You care about others. And when you care about others and animals and the planet, you naturally are happier. And that may not sound true, but the happiness you get back isn't like, yay, yay, I'm happy, everything's easy. It's this deep, caring joy. And that can feel like being brokenhearted when you see, you know, abuse, or you see the environment getting destroyed, or you see oppression. You look at Hong Kong, what's happening, you're both inspired and heartbroken. You know, the world is heartbreaking, and don't try to avoid that. Be empathetic.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. This has been such an eye-opening episode to hear from you and all of your ingenuity and just the beautiful creation that you're giving to the world. So I want to personally thank you for that. And we'll link
right back at you.
Oh, thank you so much, Waylon. Yeah. And we'll link everything below so that everyone can go check out you and check out Elephant Journal and listen to your podcast, because I know that it's incredible. It's one of my favorites. And again, thank you so much. It's been a beautiful, beautiful time spending with you.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.